ACM.
Beneath the surface.
With the housing executive plans looming over the residents, with the threat of towers toppling in the near horizon, with many in authority treating it little more than a game objective, many are unsure about how this will resolve and what the future will hold for them. Anyway, it's time we got straight to the point and beneath the surface. That's why I'm going to be talking to Macedon Councillor Billy Webb on his opposition to the plans. Thank you, Councillor Webb, for joining us.
My pleasure.
Let me ask you, have you had any interactions with the people within the community?
Pretty much so. I mean, I've been a public representative for the Macedon area, which includes the Rathcoole area, as you know. Probably for too long, since 1997. So yeah, I've had quite an involvement with the local community, and particularly through the Rathcoole Neighbourhood Renewal Partnership. I was one of the founder members that set that up, and I chaired the Neighbourhood Renewal for its early years up until about 4 years ago, and I was vice chair, and I'm still a member of the partnership board. So and I'm on the subgroups within the Neighbourhood Renewal and looking at education and employment. I also was the chair of Newton Abbey Citizens Advice Bureau for many years. So through those organisations, yeah, I've got involvement with the community. Apart from that, then I've constituency work. You know, I would be contacted by various individuals in Rathcoole if they had issues or problems that they need addressed. So yeah, I've quite an involvement with the area.
On this particular issue, like how many people have you spoken to?
Oh well, apart from the public meeting which I was at, some of the residents within the blocks have contacted me. Particularly in the early days when there was a worry as to what was going on, there was a void of information and people were really concerned. They were hearing rumours in relation to the multi-stories and the demolition. So there were a lot of people who would contact me as individuals, and then at the public meeting I was absolutely delighted that so many people came out into the Nanny Centre that particular evening. To voice their concerns. It just demonstrated the number of residents within the multi-stories who were concerned as to what was going on in relation to their homes. So yeah, I've had quite a contact from the community.
That's good. On the consultation, what concerns did they have concerns over what was happening?
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think the executive really fully appreciate, that they're dealing with people's homes. A lot of people have lived there for years. Some people have well, obviously some of the existing residents bought their property, but some people actually bought into it without being a rent-paying resident. So they saw that as their home. Some of them who were at the public meeting and I've talked to as well, they saw that as their retirement home. They've downsized from somewhere else, bought into one of the apartments there and thought that's where they were going to live out the rest of their days. So for them and those that have lived there for years, it's a big worry if somebody comes along to you and says, yeah, we're going to put you somewhere else, we're going to knock down your home. But they don't look behind that as to the impact that's going to have on people. People are very comfortable living in their own environment. And to just take them out of that without them themselves making that conscious decision that they want to move.
Do you believe that it is cost effective, the demolition and then the rebuilding of the homes over the refurbishment of the homes?
I actually believe that the cost effectiveness part of this should not be a consideration. The major consideration is that these are people's homes. And whatever cost it takes to bring those homes back up to a proper standard is the amount that should be invested in them. Now, I've seen various figures quoted in relation to how much it would actually cost to demolish the block as against how much it would cost to refurbish and bring it up to modern standard. And there isn't a big differential between that. But as I said, that's not a factor that I think should be taken into account. As I said earlier, these are people's homes, they like living there, the multi-stories are iconic, they are a major part of Rathcoole. They are visible from the M5, the Shore Road, coming down the M1 motorway. They are Rathcoole. And I mentioned the Neighbourhood Renewal Partnership that I chaired. When we were looking at the letterhead for that, we used the 4 blocks as part of it so that it had that identity of being part of Rathcoole.
Whenever the demolition goes ahead, where are the other 1-bedroom alternatives for rehoming?
Well, there is a pending planning application for housing on the old Newtonabbey Community High School site, but the planning application for that hasn't even gone in yet, as I understand. I can't comment on whether I would be for it or against it because I sit on the planning committee, so I will make a judgment on that when I have all the information before me at that time. But at the public meeting that we held for the multi-stories, the executive said, that they would compensate the housing need by the new build in the high school site, plus other small pockets of new build, and they were talking about building up at the multi-story sites as well. However, the accommodation up there, with the bedroom tax coming in, it's small accommodation. It's ideal for single or people or a couple without children. I think it'd just be a big loss to have that number of units lost to the community.
Just on that comment you said about it being ideal for young people, do you think a 1-bedroom is sufficient for young people?
Some people would be quite happy with a 1-bedroom apartment. Others obviously would prefer someone with them, and yes, but I mean it would be nice to have the choice and not have an empty space of a block on. And I would say there'd be sufficient interest in people to move in to the vacant properties there, but the executive go ahead with this, they won't have that opportunity.
Should you mention how iconic these multis are?
Yeah.
Should they can be considered as an asset or a nuisance?
I think they're a major asset. The very fact that they have been there from the start of Rathcoole, that people regard them as part of Rathcoole, they are a major housing stock and there is a housing need in the area, so I think they are a major asset.
If the demolition goes ahead, which we assume it will, can you give reassurance to the residents that they'll be placed in the local area?
I'm not sharing your view that demolition will go ahead.
Right.
I'm hoping that it in fact won't.
I'm sure we all would.
I know there's a petition currently at the minute and I've put my name to that, and I think the executive will have to consider the weight that's been put behind that, both from community and from political life. I just got the feeling at the start from my dealings with the executive, they made the decision that the multi-storey block had to be demolished, and then they worked up to that decision rather than starting with a blank sheet and seeing what the necessity was for the area and coming to a conclusion. In terms of the rehousing of the people, and that's very much down to the executive. I would hope if this does go ahead, and I said I hope it doesn't, that the people who live in the locality will be in the locality when this is all finished.
Thank you. What have you done to support the local residents in their struggle?
Well, I've contacted the housing executive. I have attended the public meeting that was held in the Dunani Centre, and with other elected representatives from right across the parties, I was on a Zoom meeting with the housing executive and some of the local residents and some of the community groups, trying to put across the fact that this needed to be looked at again and a different decision made. So my input and my colleagues from other parties even input is to put pressure, and this latest petition that started up, as I put my name to that as well.
You just mentioned there that you had people from cross parties doing this. Do you think this is a cross-party issue?
Oh, absolutely. There's been total cross-party buy-in to this right from the very outset. It's recognised by all elected representatives and those that are not elected but in political life that this is a major issue for this community, and it's not a political or party political issue. So everybody's very happy to work together and try and get it resolved.
Well, obviously, worst case now, they do take down these flats. Do you think that it'll have a detrimental effect to Reelections?
I'm not sure. I think the community can see that we are as concerned as they are, and we're doing our best to try and help resolve the situation. So I would like to think that if I do decide to stand in 2 years' time, that this and other issues that I've been involved with locally, I've always relied on the work that I've done and people recognising that. So my other colleagues in other parties, I'm sure, will be of the same mind. We've done our best, and we continue to do our best.
The last time you were actually at NACN, you said that you were for the demolition. What's caused you to change your mind?
I just had to relook at it and the public's view on this, and just listening to them, that it was somewhere they wanted to live. The building itself has always had problems because of the executive's policy of not putting tenants into it. So my view back then was this building's there, it's not occupied, there's been no work put into it. Would it be better that there was new properties there instead of what's there? But I'm always prepared to listen and reconsider, and I've changed my view on that from then, which was some time ago. Yeah.
For those at home, what should they do if they are keen on keeping these multis?
We're continuing to put pressure on the executive and on the elected representatives at the Assembly, and I know there is support there. The chair of the committee there is a local MLA and very much against what's going on here. So we would continue to put that political pressure on. One thing I would say is that concerns me is the graffiti that has appeared around Rathcoole in relation to workmen in the area, and I absolutely have no time for that at all. This is not something that should be dealt with in that way. And the workmen that are coming in from the executive, they're men with jobs, they need their pay, they need to be able to do the work. They should be left to get on with whatever they're doing. This graffiti doesn't help.
Do you think young people have a voice in this situation, or do you think it's just stuck to older people who are sitting in the boardrooms?
In terms of making the decision or influencing?
In having influence.
They certainly have a part to play in influencing the situation. Unfortunately, there aren't young people on the board of the housing executive. But yeah, I mean, when I say community, I mean everybody in the community. I don't just mean those over 18 that can vote. I mean the community of Rathcoole.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Beneath the surface.